Welcome to the Global Missions Podcast, a show for Christ followers who want to participate more effectively in God's work, both at home and to the ends of the earth. Visit us at globalmissionspodcast.com to find show notes, resources, and previous episodes. You can also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This podcast is brought to you by the Global Missions Toolbox, a new online collection of practical, trusted resources made for those who support global missions from home. Visit us online at globalmissionstoolbox.com to register for access to this growing collection of tools for senders. And now, here's your host, Rob Magwood, better known to many friends as Mags.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Global Missions Podcast. From time to time, we hear the notion that missionaries are put onto a type of pedestal. Perhaps we think them to be some sort of super Christians. Of course, those of you who are regular listeners to this podcast know we don't really think that's true. While we hold God's faithful mission workers in high regard, we also acknowledge that they too face real challenges wherever they live and serve. Not long ago, we featured an episode that focused in on mission workers who are single, unmarried, and how we can support and bless them. Today, we'll zoom in a bit on those who are married, and together with a deeply experienced caregiver, we'll look at some ways workers can build and maintain healthy marriages themselves, and how we who help send them can be alongside in helpful ways. I'll just mention quickly now that this is an extended episode. It's almost twice the length of our usual conversations. It was just that good, and we felt it was important not to rush. We hope that you'll be blessed and encouraged by this conversation with Lisette. Our guest today is Lisette Gabre, who has served herself as a mission worker together with her husband Christian in Asia for many years. She and Christian are originally from Sweden and went to the mission field with 3 very small children who are now grown up, and they are grandparents. Lisette, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Just before we started recording, Lisette said that there was a recent arrival. And was that your 6th grandchild, Lisette?
Yeah, there was a 6th grandchild, little Elijah. He just arrived.
Oh, wow.
And it's wonderful to be here because for the other 5, we have not been in the right country.
Wow, that is great news. And so glad you could be nearby as well. Lisette and Christian continue to live in Asia, where she is a cross-cultural consultant with long experience in member care, both for expats, people who travel around the world, and for nationals who might be from that country themselves. She's had many roles over the years, but her favorite role is being a grandmother. Lisette, we say welcome to the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. What a joy.
We are looking forward to this conversation. And just before we get into our main topic about missionary marriages, would you just tell us a little about your own missions journey, please?
Sure. I'm from a non-Christian house here in Sweden. Not my parents, not anyone are believers. By God's grace, I was saved when I was 15. And at that time, I joined a fellowship where mission was a really, really big part. I felt really big pressure to become a missionary. And I decided to never, ever, ever become one. Obviously, God had other plans. And as a 19-year-old, that was a very long time ago, by the way, I went to Belgium to serve for a year. It ended up being more than a year. But during that particular year, I received a calling to serve him full-time for the rest of my life. Then a couple of years later, I fell in crazy head over heels in love with my now husband, Christian. Mm-hmm. And he asked me to come with him to where he wanted to go, east of Finland, whatever that meant. So after 4 years at seminary and 3 kids later, we went to Central Asia, where we served 11 years among an unreached Muslim people group. And then we relocated to Chiang Mai in the north of Thailand, where we have been since 2007. We usually say that our pillow is in Thailand, but we actually do serve in several of the neighboring countries, big and small.
Wow. Well, thank you for sharing just a quick version there, but it's pretty clear that Lisette brings some deep experience to this topic. And maybe let's turn toward that just a little bit. Lisette, please tell us about your experience in providing member care and pastoral care for others.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, my main focus was really to provide member care for the expats, for the missionaries on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And the organization I was part of developed a very good member care system, which I first received. And later I was part of providing member care for individuals, for couples and families, and for all these little TCKs coming to this can country. And then later on, I also became the member care manager. I would say, though, as time passed on, I've been working more and more with the nationals in countries around where I live in Asia. I think it's just been so fascinating to see that shame and honor culture where we live in Asia, where it's just so difficult to acknowledge that you struggle, that you have problems. So yeah, particularly during COVID, I worked a lot with anger, domestic abuse, grief, emotions. And yeah, I just love journeying with people. I love to journey with people. And that's what I do.
Well, today our topic is just looking at a healthy marriage of mission workers. There are going to be some special challenges and some special blessings for a marriage on a mission field. Lisette, let's go there a little bit first. What are some of the special challenges that marriages on a mission field might face?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is the constant losses and change. Because you invest in people, people come and go and come and go. There's this constant change. And I think that just eats you in a way. It's just a true challenge. I also think something that most people don't think about, particularly when you're back home, but the fact that you don't have any parents around. Your own parents are not there, not just for babysitting, which is convenient, but just for life, you know. I also think the familiar things from your own culture, they're gone. I mean, especially like we're from a small country, right? So for us, it's very clear that we're in a team and we're the only one from our culture. And just the way we raise our kids, the way we do traditions and daily life is different. And I think that is often a challenge. Also, you may be from a country where you have other people on your team from the same country, but they may be from a different part of that country. And you may be viewing things in life very differently. I also do think that there could be problems that actually have been there before, but they will surface because suddenly there's so much unexpected stress on the field. And I realized when I journey with people and sit with them that this problem that we are focusing on didn't just start yesterday. Maybe it was there when you were 14, maybe as a child, or maybe when you were, early 20 or so. And then finally, I just want to add what I think we talked a little about this. There's a spiritual battle. This is a spiritual battle. Whether you're into that or not, there is no way you can deny it. You put yourself out there. You go into the fire with your marriage, with your family, and you just enter the battlefield. And your marriage is right there.
Wow, it really is sobering in a sense to think about all the stressors that are introduced or maybe exacerbated by being in a mission field and being married there. Now, there will be blessings that come as well. What are on the other side of challenges? What are some of the special blessings for a marriage on the mission field?
Oh, thank you for asking, because I don't want to focus on just the negative things.
Yes, yeah.
I got to say, the biggest blessing of all is actually being on the mission field. I think I get so blessed by being there, by being together with others that have the same calling, the same passion, being in a team. I think the fellowship I have experienced on the field from other missionaries is something I will never, ever get elsewhere. It's unique. And just that blessing, you go through so many things and you're so dependent on each other and on God.
Yeah.
And you face so much hardship and then you come through it together. So I think that's just something. And just another fact is that you are so vulnerable and so dependent on God. To be really honest, I can almost go through life here in some ways back in Sweden, kind of without God. Not really, but kind of. But when you're out there and it's super tough, you are so dependent on the Lord in a way that if you've never been a missionary, you will not fully understand. And I think that is a true blessing. I love that blessing because it actually, the dependency on God brings a blessing.
Wow. What a great word and a great balance too. Yes, it's challenging. Yes, there are special concerns and there are great blessings as well. Today, Lisette will be sharing about some 5 big ideas about how missionaries can build and maintain a healthy marriage while on the mission field. Lisette, just let me ask you, how long have you and Christian been married?
We've been married 31 years.
Wow, way to go.
And 26 of them has been on the field.
Right. So the majority of them serving on the field. Yeah. So Lisette really brings deep experience, deep credibility to this. And we hope that it will be beneficial not only to the mission workers themselves, but also to those of us who may be in sending churches. You may be a pastor or serving on a missions committee or just somebody who knows and loves mission workers. And we hope that being aware of these things will help you serve and love and support our mission workers even more effectively than we do today. So, Lisette, let's come into these 5 big ideas. What's the first big idea or piece of advice that you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think my first would be understand the seasons of life. And I say that because life is full of different seasons, and so will your marriage be. I mean, I don't know, but just like us, we met and we married in the early 20s. Some people are even younger. And so, you are 2 young people. You better know yourself. The world is all around the 2 of you. Then suddenly in this equation, it may be that you add on children. And then life is in the fast line. It's intense on so many levels. And even with kids around, there's like special seasons, babies, toddlers, sleepless, school age, teenage problems. And that is a whole different topic.
Yes.
and then suddenly one day you wake up and you're empty nesters. They're all gone. And you're back to being the 2 of you, but you're not going to be the 22-year-old you. You're suddenly 55. But it's still with the same person. And obviously the need that I had or my husband had, the 2 of us had when we were early 20s, they will not be the same. We're 50 plus now. We have matured. And I think just to expect that and to know that there are different seasons in life.
Very wise, I think. And just understanding that, it's a great illustration. Seasons, they change. What practical suggestions do you have for couples who want to grow in this understanding?
Yeah, I mean, I think starting by the one that I really struggle with myself, but actually allowing your spouse to change, allowing and giving that freedom to grow and to change. You cannot ask someone to be the same you were 20, 30 years ago. I also think just by acknowledging that there are different seasons, talk. Because, most human beings, we actually cannot read minds. You can't expect someone, even if you've been married for 30 years and you know each other really, 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 really well. You actually do. But you need to be honest and share how you feel. And there are so many good tools for this, the strength, I think the strength finder, if I know my husband's strength, for example, or he knows mine, or the Enneagram. I mean, or Myers-Briggs, there are so many good tools for realizing that there are different seasons.
Well, this is so wise and so helpful. And just quickly, Lisette, you've mentioned a few resources there. I'll remind our listeners that we collect show notes from these conversations, and they can be found on the website, globalmissionspodcast.com. And so we will include links to some of these tools that get mentioned both now and along the way in the conversation with Lisette. Just 3 mentioned there: Strength Finders, the Enneagram, and Myers-Briggs was the 3rd one. All very accessible with lots of resources. And they're tools that can just help grow our understanding in these seasons, I guess. But what a good illustration. The seasons change and we need to... You're from Sweden. You will have seasons there, certainly. I personally live in Canada. We have seasons, and you can't stop it. You need to understand it and accept it. We can't stop winter from coming, unfortunately. Sometimes we
Exactly. No, it's very true.
It happens.
Yeah. You need to go with the flow and just accept it.
Yeah. I really also appreciated the grace in allowing others to see the seasons. And you underlined communication along the way there too, how important it is to keep the communication lanes open. Well, the first big idea is understand there are seasons in life. Lisette, what's the second big idea you'd like to share?
have cheerleaders who support you. You got to have cheerleaders. You got to have them. And I mean, I say that because I often say this and people kind of go like, what? What did you just say? But I honestly think that marriage in itself is quite an insane institution, to be really honest. I mean, seriously, I love my husband dearly. But, the fact that, like I said, you get married when you are around 20 or 30, but, really young in life. And you actually, at that moment, in front of a lot of people, you promise to love and to live with this person for the rest of your life until death do your part. And I think when you're up there, you don't really think about what will come. And even things that you maybe can foresee, there are so many other things that you have no clue will come your way. You don't even know what will happen. So I think, therefore, you need cheerleaders. And I think there is no way you could do this without that. And I think for me, a cheerleader, that's people who believe in you. They are there. They cheer you on because, you can do this. You got this. Keep running. And I think, they cheers you on when you almost kind of lost yourself or lost the relationship, when you're struggling or when you've been faced with some really difficulties. But they're also there when life is a dance, when you just want to, shout from the rooftop, how much you love your spouse. And for me, I need to have people that I feel totally safe with, where I can be so honest and actually tell them, you know what, I just want to throw in the towel. I think this might be it. I think I've had it. And, I don't mean that, in a bad way, but to be really, really honest, there are seconds where that thought just flies by, like this is just really, really tough. And to have people that I can share that with, they don't think, oh, my word, she's going to file for a divorce. No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm not going to do that. But I just need to share with someone how I'm feeling. And I think as a couple, you need to have cheerleaders. I also like to say that as individuals, like as the wife and as the husband, you need to have your own cheerleaders. I like to call them my life-giving friends. I have life-giving friends, a couple for me and a couple of special friends. And they are my prayer partners. They journey with me. They keep me accountable. And I've actually given them permission to poke around in the really dark, embarrassing corners of my soul. And they ask me questions that I would prefer not to answer, because I know it's so embarrassing to really answer them in an honest way. I'm not very proud of my answers, but I think you got to have them. Someone that comes there, they maybe gives you a towel to dry the sweat, or they give you a glass of water or nutrition. I mean, I never ran a marathon, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's a good analogy. Wow, what a rich idea here. And you've offered some kind of images there. I wonder if proximity is sometimes going to be a challenge for people who are serving in missions. It's sometimes the ends of the earth, as we say. I wonder if you would comment on, do we need to be in the same place to be a life-giving friend or to be a cheerleader, as you've said, or could they be at a distance?
No, I mean, I think we so often talk about, the cell phone and the social media taking up all our time. Another blessing with the smartphones is the fact that we can communicate with people that are not close to us.
Right.
We don't have to, like we did when we went 26 years ago, we had to post a letter that maybe never arrived. Nowadays, I have my life-giving friends. They are in my phone. They're in my WhatsApp. And I would definitely say, you may have some cheerleaders in your city or in your team, in your agency, but they could very well be back home. I mean, I would encourage the sending church back home and the mission board. This is for you. You can be cheerleaders. I mean, definitely. You can be there. I think that the role that you have is unique. You can pray, send messages, care packages. For example, you can support care if there were to be available some extra money to just send a love gift and say, you know what, go and spend a night at a hotel or whatever it works, depending on where you live. But take this money to invest in your marriage. Maybe they could be doing a coaching course, maybe doing something, going to a counselor, whatever it is, but to actually spoil and cheer them on from a distance. You can be super close, even if you're in the other end of the world.
Right. Right. Oh, great ideas and using technology in this positive way. I wonder, Lisette, if you could just comment if you have any particular advice for the cheerleaders themselves and how they might prepare themselves and posture themselves to be one of these life-giving friends. How could we prepare to do this well?
I mean, I think if possible, get to know the people before they go on the field. Spend time, get to know them, and offer and let them know that I am here for you. Mm-hmm. Can I do this journey with you? And I also think don't be afraid of asking some challenging questions. Mm-hmm. Ask them, of course, do I have permission? Can I ask you this? Is it okay if I journey with you? And ask them, what do you want of me? What do you need from me? Also, there are, of course, books and ways they can learn from other cheerleaders. They can learn from others that's been in this position before. But definitely ask the couple, what do you need? What can I do for you? Mm-hmm. And I think one thing they can definitely do is because, off and on, we need to go home. We need to go to our passport country. Right. Maybe it's called home assignment or furlough or holiday. I think that's often the most challenging time. When you're in transition, you can provide a safe place for them. A place where they can actually come, maybe just sit with a cup of coffee or a meal and just be themselves. Let them feel safe and share about the hardship. Of course, also about the fun, crazy, wonderful things. But don't focus on the ministry. Focus on the people. Focus on their hearts.
Mm-hmm. Such wise, caring words. And you did mention that if possible, getting to know mission workers before they depart for the field, whether it's for the first time or maybe on a home assignment or furlough, as you've said. It does seem that kind of foundation of relationship could then be a great blessing going forward. I wanted to land on that a little more so that those of us in home churches might really think strategically about the time we have in person with our workers, either before they go for the first time or when they're home. Building on that seems to just lay a wise groundwork, I think, as you said, Lisette, for the way forward.
Yes. And I also think we as workers, as missionaries, mm-hmm. we can also be proactive and tell the church about our needs. Tell them, please ask us. Please ask us about our marriage. You are not worrying us. You're not disturbing us. You're actually invited into our lives. So I think we need to also take our responsibility to share our needs and invite others to journey with us.
It's great advice. Now, we'll head on to the third big idea that you'd like to share here, Lisette. This is wonderful. We could spend much more time, I know. What's the third piece of advice you'd like to share?
My third one would be grow in self-awareness. Mm-hmm. And you may wonder, why do you mention self-awareness when we're talking about marriage, which means two people and a couple? I personally think that in order to better care for your spouse or to help him to care for you, you actually need to know yourself. It's very, very hard to receive care or to give care if you don't know yourself well. And there could be like simple things. How much sleep do you need? How do you best relax? What stresses you? Or why are some things triggering you in such a way? Maybe there's like a childhood memory. Maybe that recalls a memory of your dad or your parents' marriage or something. But to understand your own reactions. And I think without knowing yourself, how are you even supposed to know and care for other person? Not to mention to just expect him to care for you. Mm-hmm. I think that's super. I keep coming back for that when I work with people. You need to have self-awareness. That's just the key.
Well, are there practical suggestions then that you have? How can we grow in our self-awareness? You did mention some resources or some ideas a little earlier.
Yeah, I did mention some of them already, definitely. Mm-hmm. And I think use the tools, use your life-giving friends, mm-hmm. maybe have a coach that you can journey with. And definitely, I would say there are some of these amazing tools and tests out there where you can open your eyes. And I think just to ask your prayer partner, accountability partner, or life-giving friends, as I call them, to be honest with you as well, to give feedback on the way you react, the way you behave, and don't take that as a threat,
Right.
but as a way of growing yourself and in your understanding so that your spouse and others can care for you better and you can care for them.
Right, right. Well, I'd like to ask Lisette, because some of us, at least in North America, and I know around the world, are familiar with this idea. We've heard about the 5 love languages, and it's just one framework, the 5 love languages. We can't do it in detail today, but I wonder if you just comment on that. Is that sort of the idea that you have in mind, and this could be useful?
Oh, definitely. And I mean, it's great. The Love Languages by Gary Chapman is translated to, I don't know how many languages. I find it in, the most interesting languages, and it's used and it's very, very helpful. Yeah. I mean, the concept is that it talks about 5 different ways of expressing your love as well as receiving your love. Mm. And each one of us, we have our own different ways to receive love. And I think, again, by knowing your own love language and your spouse's love language, you can express your love and your need in a helpful way. And you can also care for your husband in a way that is more helpful. Mm-hmm. I mean, for example, for me, my 2 love languages are gift giving and words of appreciation. Okay. None of them, they don't do anything for my husband. He doesn't really like gifts. And, for years, I've been praising him, showering him with words of appreciations. And I learned now it doesn't really mean a lot to him. He needs time. So it's different. But I think that is a really, really good resource. And the fact that it's translated as well, you can actually use it as well when you are a missionary on the field.
Yeah, it might be of really great value to pass on as well. Just to share a quick story, my wife and I are walking alongside a young couple who are considering marriage together. And we went for a walk. It was the 4 of us together, but the ladies had gotten ahead and I was behind a little bit with the young man. We had talked about love languages previously, just kind of in general. And a special event had come along. And so this young man had tried to pay closer attention to his girlfriend's love language. It didn't do anything for him, but I said, just look at what she appreciates and try and watch, observe, and act into that. And he did. So this walk was actually a report. And he said, Mags, you wouldn't believe the way she responded when I stepped toward that. And it was just a beautiful, simple example. By observing and understanding even those 5, gift giving, I think touch, time spent together, words of appreciation and affirmation, and acts of service, I think.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
So simple, so helpful. Well, this is such great insight, Lisette. In a moment, I'm going to ask you to share 2 more big ideas about keeping a marriage healthy on the mission field. Before we get to that part of our conversation, we'd like to share with you, our listeners, this mission resource that we hope will be helpful to you and your church.
Your profession, your skills, your passions. It's you making disciples of the nations. Crossworld desires to help you engage the world's least reached marketplaces in the ways God has gifted you. Hear more about Crossworld right here on the podcast by listening to episode 109 called Making Disciples Through Our Vocations. To learn more about Crossworld and their global opportunities, visit crossworld.org. And now, back to today's conversation.
We're back with Lisette Gabre, who is sharing some advice about how mission workers can keep their marriages healthy while serving on the mission field, while adding in some ideas about how we who love mission workers can be supportive. The first 3 are, number 1, understand that there are seasons of life. Number 2, make sure you have cheerleaders who support you. And number 3, grow in your own self-awareness. Great insights here, Lisette. What's the 4th big idea you'd like to share today?
Don't compare yourself to other couples. I say that because I honestly think that comparison is the root to a lot of evil, a lot of bad, for all aspects of life. Actually, I think the second we start comparing ourselves to someone else, we have actually set ourselves up to lose, because either you will win or you will lose, but it's not helpful. And I think the same goes for marriage. And I think if we compare ourselves to this and that couple, we may add stress to our own marriage. You need to find out what works for you. For some people, that means date night every Tuesday night. Oh, that works great for us. But for others, it actually doesn't work. Like for me and Christian, and actually generally in Sweden, we are not in a tradition of having a lot of date nights. And it's just not really something that we are used to. And yes, every now and then, Christian and I, we do go for dates, or we've been going away overnight. Of course, we've done and we still do. But we have other things that helps us to grow in our marriage. And I think on that topic, another thing that I really, really can't stress enough, you need to remember that when you start comparing yourself to another couple, you don't have the full picture.
Right.
You don't know what's going on behind closed doors. Maybe you sit behind a couple in church and they look like they got it all together. Oh, what a beautiful family. Look at that couple. He puts his arm around her. Wow. You have no clue what's going on. Maybe about 2 minutes later, after they close the door to the car and start driving back home, maybe they are quarreling. Maybe they are yelling and fighting. Or tonight, back home in the bedroom, you don't know that. And you may not ever see that. So in your mind, you look at them, you go like, wow, they got it all figured out. Here I am. I'm going through this dark season. I'm struggling. We are struggling. And how can that be? But remember, don't go there. Don't start comparing. Just work on you and your husband, spend time and just seek God and seek help if you need. So for me, the whole comparison game is such a dangerous game.
That's a very wise word. You have commented on the many helpful Christian books, and we want to acknowledge these resources can be really stimulating, great ideas for building a healthy marriage. But you also have a caution for us, right, with regard to all of these resources and books.
Well, actually, I do. I mean, then again, seeing that I have put together a whole list of resources in the show notes, I obviously read a lot of books, and many of the books are very, very, very good. The same goes for blogs and podcasts, whatnot. But however, there definitely are some books and some blogs where I personally don't find them very helpful, particularly if you are really struggling. Because and I know maybe this sounds wrong, but I personally don't think that there's a 1, 2, 3 to a happy marriage. I don't think there is.
Right.
I'm sorry to tell you, you can't just go and buy one of these little boxes and you add in water and then you bake it.
Right.
You know, marriage is something you do from scratch. You got to put all the ingredients in there. Sometimes there's too little water, too much salt, whatever it is, and you need to fix it. I've been in a season where I read some of the books and it actually broke me down more than built me up, because I was reading all these. If you face the situation, do 1, 2, 3. And I'm just like, I tried the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm still struggling. So I would just say that if you're in a really weak place, I think it's just much better to go for counseling. Seek someone that can speak right into your situation rather than just read general books that may actually add more guilt and pressure. But this is my personal view, but I stand for it.
It's
my
a good
take.
view. Yeah, very helpful. Well, instead of comparison, what would you propose as a healthier mindset then?
Well, I would say focusing on your situation and invite others to help you focus on that situation. And also just remember that God is in this. God is there and God is longing for you to draw closer to Him. I would just say, like I said before, have people, life-giving friends or sending church, wherever they are, but people that are journeying with you, that are in your life, that can share with you. And also another thing that Christian and I have seen over the years, when we're in a safe place where we start sharing of some of the dark passages that we've been through in our quite long marriage, and we start saying that was really tough, or she struggled with that, or he struggled with that, or whatever, time after time, we had people saying with tears in their eyes, "Really? Oh, wow. I thought we were the only ones. I didn't know there were others out there." And I think that's a danger. We try to put up these little showcase. Look at us. We're having it all together. I think we need to be more honest. Obviously, not share all the nitty-gritty details and hang my husband out here or myself or whatever, but be honest in a situation that is tight, is close, is safe, and say, you know what? we face this situation. And I think that could be a huge encouragement to hear that you're not alone.
Not alone. Very wise. Lisette, what is the fifth, we'll call it the final big idea that you'd like to share about keeping a marriage healthy on the field?
Yeah, and let me say, these are just 5 of my thoughts. There are probably more, but these are 5 that I keep coming back to.
I'm sorry, we have to just say 5 today. Perhaps we'll have to do another episode together.
Yeah, well, these are the 5 top ones that I keep coming back to. And I call it, don't think that your marriage is safe just because you're a missionary. And what do I mean with that? It sounds strange, safe. I mean that because you're on the field, don't think that you will not face temptation, that you will not face a rocky road. And I can say that during my many years on the field, I have seen rocky marriages. I had my fair share of challenges. I have journeyed with really dear, wonderful sisters and brothers who've been struggling. I have actually even been part of sending dear people back home from the field because the marriage fell apart. And I think there is no guarantee whatsoever that because you've been sent from a church, you've been going to the field, and I'm a missionary, that you will not struggle and face challenges. I would actually say that because you've gone to the field, because you offered and you've gone all the way, there will be challenges. It's kind of like we said before, you put yourself out there in the open fire.
Yes.
And I also think one of the aspects that we don't talk maybe so much about, it's you go to the field, maybe far away, ends of earth, and there you're in this team and you've been for a long time dreaming about seeing this, maybe a people group or this kind of work that you're involved in, to see them get to know the Lord. You work really hard, you pray, and you work with other people in your team. And there's someone in your team from this really exotic country who has that same vision, who is equally passionate about the exact same thing. You work hard, you dream together, you face challenges together, you laugh and you cry and you spend a lot of time together, or you may even get to travel together. And then you just sprinkle it all with prayer because you're doing mission and, you do it for the Lord and you do it for the local people and for the organization and for the supporters. And why would there not be cases where people would fall in love or start thinking a bit extra about that person? And I just think that, it would almost be strange if there would not be times where you would cross a line emotionally. And I think I'm not always talking about physical temptation or where, sex. That's all we talk about. No, I'm not thinking about that. I'm talking about that emotional infidelity where you're in your mind, put this other person before your own spouse. She's the first person that pops up is he or she, And I think the emotional infidelity, there's still so much more we can say on that topic. But I think, like I said, you're in a spiritual battle. You don't forget that. Imagine what happens when the evil one destroys a marriage. He destroys the marriage. Imagine if the couple spent so much time and energy on fighting rather than doing ministry. You can actually, if you were to attack the leaders, and they are actually very often attacked, you destroy the leader's marriage, which means you affect the family, the team, the organization, the whole local community.
Yes. Yeah.
So, there are roaring lions. They're just walking around thinking like, what? I'm ready to attack. And I don't want to say that to scare people.
Right.
I want to encourage you to have healthy relationship with the opposite gender of your team members. Of course, don't be like, I can't talk to a man or I can't laugh at his jokes or whatever. But be aware, this is not just about us being humans. It's about a spiritual battle. And I've actually met someone a couple of times. I met people like, I'm aware, but this is not a problem for me. And the second I hear someone say, this is not a problem for me, I'm just like, oh my word, you're on thin ice. You're on thin ice. If you are not aware, if you don't think it's a problem, there is a problem. There could be a problem.
Wow, what deep wisdom here. I wonder whether you have even in brief, Lisette, particular suggestions for those of us, those of our mission workers who find themselves not being safe. Like you said, they're out in the line of fire. The enemy would be more than happy to sow dissension and deception and discouragement and to break down the marriages. What suggestions do you have for them?
I mean, yes, some of the ones that I said before, obviously, you need to have cheerleaders and all of that. I mean, I think the other advice would be just be aware. Don't think that you are immune, because you are not immune. Doesn't matter what a good quiet time you have. You're still not, you're just a human being. And, you're tired. Your wife might be tired. And the other thing I would say, you need to have healthy boundaries. Healthy boundaries. I cannot stress that. I love the word boundaries because for me, it's not a threat. It's helpful. It's something helping me. And the other thing is that you need to have someone to help you to be accountable. Because you can have all the boundaries, but if you don't have anyone to bounce them up with to actually keep you accountable, they don't really help. So I would say accountability partner and boundaries, healthy boundaries.
Really good advice. Lots to unpack there. Lisette, as we begin to wind down here, I'd like to turn our attention to our listeners who are in sending churches, maybe leaders or others who simply love our mission workers. What advice do you have for them in coming alongside mission workers to help keep those marriages healthy?
Yeah, like I said before, I think that they are crucial. I think that they have such an important role. I would say for them just to be there, to journey with them, to pray with them, to just send messages. I mean, we have smartphones, all of us. Just drop them a line and just like say, hey, what's up? Or make a routine of praying for them, asking the Lord to give special verses from the Bible to send them, prayed for you today. I thought of you when I read this, or just stay in contact and, just do not only ask about ministry, but ask personal questions. Dare asking, or just by saying, I'm out today. I was praying for you and your wife, and I was praying for the two of you today, and anything specific you want me to pray for, or the Lord put me on my heart to pray for you, and just show support and care. And don't just make it like this super spiritual thing, but also be there with fun things. Share the fun stories with them. And just encourage them to be just doing life with them in a distance, but still be there and support them.
That's good. It really seems that we need to work on building trust in order to have these depth of conversations, right? And that's not going to come accidentally, I don't think. It's not going to be instantaneous. And so for us as senders, those of us who love and support our mission workers, there will be some effort and some investment to grow the trust and the credibility to be able to provide accountability, to ask some of these very personal questions off the hop is not likely to be well received, but it will be through the demonstration of ongoing caring and that offer of deep friendship. And that's going to take some time, Lisette, I think.
Yeah, definitely. But I also say, if the opportunity is there and you could meet face to face, that's helpful. I also have other people that I've actually gotten to know only over online, because you can do that. You could FaceTime or, use video on WhatsApp or whatever phone you're using to get to know each other. And by building trust. And building trust is very often small things and small steps that then turn into a big pile of trust.
That's really good. At risk of making this only about genders, gentlemen and ladies, I would really like to extend a challenge to the men who are in sending churches to consider how they might reach out and come alongside other men who are serving as missionaries. I know after this discussion with you, Lisette, I've got some letters that I need to write to some gentlemen who are serving faithfully, and I want them to know that I'm praying for them. And I don't know whether I could be a life-giving friend as you've described, but we're alongside and we want to cheer. But between men, maybe it's a generalization that maybe ladies communicate some of these things better.
No, it's so true. You're totally onto something there. And I find that, again, there's a generalization, but I would say that I very, very often meet ladies, the women, the wives. They have a much easier time. They go for a coffee, or they do something together, or they prepare a baby shower, or they bake, or they do something, and they share. Whereas men have a much harder time to open up with another guy. Yeah, they might go and play basketball together, or they might work together, work on computers or whatever it could be. But it's much harder for men. And I know my husband would agree with this as well, that it's easier for me to talk to women than it is for him to talk to other men about these things.
Well, let's be sensitive to that. And gentlemen, take our place. I remember receiving a note from a gentleman when we were overseas during the season where we were serving as church planters. And I received a written letter from a gentleman at home and how much that meant to me. Just brother to brother.
Yep, it's so important.
Let's consider that.
You got to have your brothers.
Yes, yes. Well, we are going to wind down here. I just would like to add one final note too, that it's possible that you're listening to this and you have been in or you are in a marriage relationship that is under stress or even has broken. And we want to speak also love and hope toward those who have faced brokenness in marriage. And we want to know that there are life-giving friends after those things as well. We know it's enormously complex. But I just wanted to send that signal, Lisette, to some of our dear brothers and sisters have faced breakdown even, and just to offer love and hope beyond. And yes, there is redemption, and the Lord can take very difficult things and bring from it beauty as well. So as we work to keep things healthy, we also want to extend that love and hope to those on the other side.
Yeah.
Lisette, you have created a list of resources, and I'll just say thank you. We're not going to go through that list of resources, but to all our listeners, they can be found, the resources can be found in the show notes. This will be ideas to help build and keep a marriage healthy on the mission field. But if, Lisette, anyone would like to follow up with you, they'd like to reach out to you, how could they do that?
Oh, please do contact me. I love to be in contact with you, and I love to hear from you and journey with you. And if you have any questions as well, please contact me. You can reach me at Lisette, my name, Lisette, at psmail.net. Lisette at psmail.net. Please do email me.
Well, Lisette, this has been a great joy to spend this time with you today from across the ocean. In this case, Lisette is in Sweden as we record, and we're in Canada. Thank you so much for sharing with us, and may the Lord bless you and enable you and use you as his servant to continue to build up and help strengthen marriages on the mission field. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy.
Wow. Well, this episode was absolutely packed with deep wisdom and some great ideas. Already our team is thinking about the next topic we might like to unpack with Lisette. Let us know if you agree. We love your comments, and we'd ask you to consider leaving us a review. Apple Podcasts is great, or your favorite podcast app. This helps others find the program. In any case, we hope today that you'll be encouraged and equipped to step forward, whether you yourself are a mission worker or if you love and support a missionary couple. Today's episode is brought to you by the Global Missions Toolbox, where you can find a library of resources especially for senders, those of us who help support workers as they serve. We invite you to drop by at globalmissionstoolbox.com. On behalf of our team, thanks for listening. Join us again in 2 weeks when we'll continue to explore this grand adventure of being Christ's witnesses to the ends of the earth.